all of us combined.
Following this speech, many anticipated an immediate withdrawal of South African troops from the DRC, but that did not occur. Additionally, some members of the South African Parliament have expressed confusion over how their troops could cooperate with the FDLR genocidal militia in the killings of the Congolese citizens.
The FDLR, Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, is our South African soldiers fighting alongside the FDLR, alongside when they were there, in order to reach the objective. Because many of these soldiers in the FDLR were reportedly involved in the genocide in Rwanda. If South Africa is going that route, if they're fighting alongside those forces, why is it that South Africa is going rogue? Rogue, yes. And why are we so determined to fight and achieve the objective to protect the minerals of the wealthy, the politically exposed of this country, South Africa, and all other connected people?
Activities that threaten Rwanda's security are exacerbated by South Africa's refusal to extradite or prosecute individuals implicated in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, many of whom fled there after arrest warrants were issued by Rwanda. South Africa has also granted asylum to leaders of groups actively working to destabilize Rwanda's security. University lecturer Dr. Ismail Buchanan believes that these issues will remain a source of ongoing tension in relations between the two countries.
South Africa
is not being falsely accused. Rather, it is a fact. It has hosted some politicians who were once here in Rwanda but could not stay due to their ideologies. They sought to disrupt the security of the country and fled to South Africa, where they were received. You saw it recently. Kayumba Nyamwasa hadn't been seen in the media for quite some time, but when M23 took control of Goma, he even appeared on TV.
The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, expressed concern over South Africa's actions, especially given that Rwanda has done everything possible to improve relations between the two countries.
It has continued up to this day, even more intensely this time, and we have been sharing constantly the information, the worries we have about what these people have been involved in. Now, we started even seeing people from far, like the ones we talked about, European countries and others, these activists around the genocide issues and turning Rwanda into, the worst country to live in, and that's why they don't live there, relocating to South Africa. So which means there is good ground for them to go and operate from there. That has been growing with the time.
Additionally, at the recent East African Community Heads of State Extraordinary Summit, President Kagame also voiced his concerns at the threats issued by South Africa against Rwanda, accusing it of being involved in the deaths of its soldiers in Congo.
And South Africa dares even issue threats about what is likely to happen after that, and so on and so forth. Of course, we will see what threats they are talking about.
South Africa has maintained strong relations with Rwanda since 1994 during Nelson Mandela's presidency, and these ties continued under Thabo Mbeki. However, relations began to sour in 2009 with the rise of Jacob Zuma to power, and his successor Cyril Ramaphosa has continued in the same direction. Now to more news. After the United States announced a reduction in aid channeled through its Agency for International Development, USAID, International Development, analysts argue that it is time for Africa to reduce its reliance on foreign assistance and embark on a path towards self-reliance. Let's take a look at the details. Reducing foreign aid in every possible way was one of the pledges made by the U.S. President Donald Trump during his campaign. Earlier this week, it was announced that the U.S. Agency for International Development would be dissolved and turned into a department under the State Department due to its alleged inefficiencies.
It's
been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
Elon Musk, the head of the U.S. government agency responsible for monitoring budget expenditures, stated that reducing foreign aid will also help curb domestic price inflation.
When you bring down government spending, there's a very important double benefit, which is that you stop inflation and interest payments go down because the government is no longer borrowing money. If the government is borrowing money, it's actually competing with everyone else to borrow money, and that drives up the interest rate. So if we solve government spending, in a nutshell, your grocery bill stays the same, your mortgage payment goes down, and your car payment goes down.
Recently, Elon Musk posted on X describing USAID as a group of criminals that should be dismantled. For over 60 years, USAID has been the primary channel through which the US provides humanitarian assistance, particularly to Africa.
What Trump did, I wish it had been done by others long before now. What we call aid is merely temporary assistance, and you can't truly achieve anything from it. When you are constantly assisted, you stop thinking for yourself and become dependent on others. This reliance strips you of your autonomy as a human being, reducing you to the status of a domesticated animal. It's like a cow that is fed grass daily. When the feeding suddenly stops, the cow may struggle at first, but does not die the next day. Instead, it eventually breaks free from the enclosures and finds its own grass. Similarly, foreign aid, especially from the US and other countries, functions as a tool that prevents self-sufficiency and independent thought.
In Rwanda, USAID supports sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, and education. Rwanda has already taken significant steps towards financial self-reliance, as it currently funds 83.2% of its national budget, indicating that these changes will not have a severe impact on the country.
Hari ibihugu mbese ubona mu by'ukuri inkunga ituruka muri Amerika ibafatiye runini.
There are countries that rely heavily on aid from the United States, but in Rwanda, I believe we won't be as severely affected. Yes, there will be some side effects. I'm not saying there won't be any, but the impact won't be drastic as in some other countries. In Africa, 6 countries receive US aid, take a significant portion of it. If that funding is no longer included in their budget, it will be extremely challenging for them. Compared to those nations, Rwanda is in a better position because we have already begun the journey towards self-reliance.
During a press conference on January 10, President Paul Kagame stated that these changes are not happening in the US alone, but are part of a global shift which should serve as a lesson in self-reliance.
It's not only that things have changed in the United States. I can still see many things changing across the world. In fact, at a terrific speed, that we have to work hard to take care of ourselves, given the whirlwind of change sweeping across the world.
The U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, was established in 1961 and is headquartered in Washington, D.C. It operates in over 60 countries, but also has programs in many others, employing over 10,000 staff, most of whom work outside the U.S. Data from the 2023 shows that the U.S. provided $68 billion in foreign aid, with more than $40 billion channeled through USAID. Moving ahead, Rwanda Inspectorate Competition and Consumer Protection Authority, in collaboration with the Rwanda Energy Group and the Rwanda National Police, presented 7 individuals suspected of being involved in the theft and illegal trade of various electrical equipment valued at over 150 million Rwandan francs. William Evans unpacks the details.
Individuals presented are traders, including some from the Zinia market in Chichochiro district, others from Gachiriro in Gisozi, and one from Rulindo district. These suspects target distribution boxes, transformer oil, and copper wires used for power distribution. The Rwanda Energy Group, REG, expresses significant concern about the theft targeting infrastructure and electrical equipment, as highlighted by Zawad Geoffrey, Internal Link Director, REG.
ibikorwa byibasirwa cyane nizo bita distribution box bakurikiyemo twatu.
The most affected are distribution boxes, where they steal wires, and some steal copper wires and transformer oils. All these are valuable, but when stolen, they can only benefit an individual instead of being used for the greater good of all Rwandans. We have a goal to extend electricity to every Rwandan, but the process is being slowed by such criminal acts of stealing electrical cables and other equipment that is distribution services. Working together, we can fight such irresponsible acts. These electrical devices were seized following inspection conducted by police, REG and RICA, and the operation continues. Those apprehended reportedly failed to explain the origin of the equipment, and some items did not meet the quality standards. RICA, which oversees quality checks, consumer protection and competition in businesses, has warned traders dealing in such equipment without proper documentation, emphasizing that all regulations governing this trade are in place. I want to encourage all traders to ensure their business dealings are following the set rules, policies, and operational guidelines. These guidelines are easy to follow. The message from the Rwanda National Police is that it will not tolerate anyone stealing or concealing those involved in the illegal trade of electrical equipment due to the losses caused to the country and the impacts of power shortages on national security. National security is what it means to have darkness because a few wrong characters have decided to abuse such public infrastructure for their own selfish gains. I call upon the public to collectively work with us in stopping this vice. All the electrical equipment seized is valued at 153 million Rwandan francs, and these include electrical wires of about 295 meters, 445 circuit breakers, and other items. William Evans, Mutabazi, RwandaTV News.
Alo, baramutse utashiri wanjye.
Utekereza ko guhora wizigamiye n'umushu aribyo birenze? Natwe niko tubibona. Ubona nta cyakurutira kugaragaza impano yawe. Niko bimeze.
So guys, uyu munsi tugiye kuganira ku gaseke. Agaseke bya gafite byinshi. Kamari, ese wowe kakumara iki? Manudi. Halo Manudi, niba iki uri kunkura mu kazi? Hero mabusha, byahiye kandi noneho bimeze neza cyane. Ukuntu biri no guhumura. Ako Manudi, urumva nakumva ko ibyo bihumura koko?
Ubona ntacyakutura umwuga wawe. Erega, natwe niko tubibona. Dushyigikiye buri kimwe agaciro mu buzima bwawe na irekure nshya. Buri wese arahishiwe, wikwisondeka. Kanda akanyenyeri 140 urwego, uhitemo agaseke kawe ka packs zo guhamagara. Cyangwa akanyenyeri 345 urwego, uhitemo bando za internet uryoherwe n'umuvuduko wa 4G.
Welcome back now to matters making headlines globally. U.S. President Donald Trump's idea for the United States to take over the Gaza Strip has shocked Israelis and Palestinians. While some Israelis welcome the idea, Palestinians categorically reject it. VOA has the details.
President Donald Trump dropped his bombshell about the future of Gaza at a joint news conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House Tuesday.
Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent.
Trump said the 2 million Palestinians will be resettled elsewhere. For some, it is a dream come true.
The plan presented yesterday by U.S. President Donald Trump is the true response to October 7th. Those who carried out the worst massacre on our land will find themselves losing their land forever.
Israeli analysts said Trump's idea resonates with hardliners in Israel.
It's only natural for them to be this idea's cheerleaders because they think in messianic terms, in terms of colossal solutions and transitions and transformations, all of which are not the way the Middle East is structured.
He says Israelis and Palestinians need to be patient.
You want change, you have to work very patiently over many years with many participants, or all you'll have is yet more violence and destruction and despair.
Hamas spokesman Sami Abu Zuhri called Trump's remarks ridiculous and absurd, adding that any ideas of this kind are, quote, a recipe for creating chaos and tension in the region. In Gaza, Palestinians say that despite the large-scale destruction, they have no intention of leaving.
I am Gazan. My father and grandfather were from here. We are true Gazans, so they can do whatever they want to do. We shall remain steadfast in our homeland. We will not leave here. We've got one option only, live or die here.
Riyad Mansour, the Palestinian envoy to the United Nations, offered his own solution.
Our country and our home is the Gaza Strip. It's part of Palestine. We have no home. For those who want to send them to a happy, nice place, let them go back, to their original homes inside Israel. There are nice places there, and they will be happy to return to these places.
It is not clear how President Trump's ideas will influence talks on a permanent ceasefire in Gaza set to begin this week in Qatar. Linda Gradstein, VOA News, Jerusalem.
To more news, living with a disability presents unique challenges, but some living with a disability say resilience, determination and support can help individuals thrive. From Maputo, Mozambique, VOA has a story of two Mozambicans who refused to let disabilities define their lives. Take a look.
Delfina Nyantumbo is studying education and social action at Mozambique's Pedagogical University of Maputo. She has a condition called cerebral palsy that affects her ability to move and balance. Despite this, Delfina started an association called Flicker of Inclusion Association to help people like her.
I have an association that helps people like me. I help them to realize that they can go to school, that they can walk and have a normal life.
Julia Francisco, Delfina's mother, has supported her along the way.
I got feedback from parents saying that Delfina came to take us out of the deep end. We didn't know what to do with our son, but with Delfina's visit, we were able to see that our son is also capable.
It helped me to want to go back to school because I had already given up, but she made me understand that I am capable and that I can go far.
Nyantumbu says feedback like this keeps her going.
Girls with disabilities have faced more difficulties, first because they are women and then because they have disability, but they can do thousands of things.
Rafael Bata is visually impaired but found refuge in music as his sight faded. Inspired and mentored by blind Mozambican musician Isaú Menezes, Bata learned how to play the guitar and formed a band made up of visually impaired people. He earns a degree in journalism and works as an advocacy coordinator and presenter on RwandaTV, a Mozambican non-governmental, non-profit organization that promotes inclusive social participation.
It is still a big challenge to be a person with a disability because society still doesn't respect the rights of people with disabilities.
Despite obstacles, Bata and Nyantumbu says they are committed to challenging stereotypes and building more inclusive communities.
Being disabled doesn't make you incapable. It doesn't make you better or worse than anyone else.
fazer-se alguma coisa.
Even though there is still that stereotype that people with disabilities are invalids, I fight against that.
Bata created a theater group for people with disabilities as a way to continue fighting for the disabled. Nyantumbu says she will continue to work towards a future without limitation for people with disabilities. Amarilis Gule, VOA News, Maputo, Mozambique.
The story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but before we leave, a reminder of the top stories that made the edition. Members of the Rwandan Parliament from both chambers commenced the second session of the 2024-2025 legislative year. Political and international relations analysts argue that the South African leadership should reassess its actions and stop any activities that jeopardize Rwanda's security. On the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump's idea for the United States to take over Gaza Strip has shocked Israelis and Palestinians. And while some Israelis welcomed the idea, Palestinians categorically reject it. That concludes today's bulletin. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of the entire news team, we wish you a productive week ahead. Stay safe and take care of yourselves. Good night.